Hey guys, it's Jordan here from Switchwatch. How you all doing today? Today I've got a review of another Nintendo first party title. This time it's Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Thanks to Nintendo UK for providing this copy so I can tell you guys if it's worth your hard earned cash or not. Now the question of today is, what is your favourite Donkey Kong game? Maybe it's pretty easy, maybe it's not. Let us know in the comments below. Let's get on with it. The Donkey Kong series has had its ups and downs as a franchise. It's hit the high notes with an arcade lineup, then with Donkey Kong Country series, and then finally the Country Returns series. Huge highs, but with lots of time in between. It was Returns on the Wii that brought DK back to the limelight. Its sequel took it to the next level, however, with Tropical Freeze on the Wii U. To the surprise of absolutely no one, Tropical Freeze has now been ported from the Wii U to the Nintendo Switch to reach a greater audience than the meager Wii U user base. And for those who didn't play it on the Wii U, you are in for a treat. As is always the case with Donkey Kong Country games, the story is hardly the most in-depth of things. There's very little setup when it comes to these sort of games, but that doesn't really matter because that's not the reason why you're playing. The plot for this one is fairly straightforward. Donkey Kong is celebrating his birthday. How old is he? Well, probably even Nintendo don't know. Not that we need to. What we do need to know is that invaders are coming. The Viking-inspired snowmads are coming to bring a tundra to the once tropical islands the Kongs inhabit. Obviously they ain't standing for that, so Donkey, Diddy, Dixie, Cranky and now Funky Kong are on a rampage to take back their place of paradise. Obviously a DK game is not usually where you look for a story, so there's very little to hold on to in that regard. You have your goal, you get to it. There is a lot of style in cutscenes, I must say, as you'd expect from a Nintendo game. Even if they lack a deep narrative, they still make up for it with humour and style, although we can't help but wish there was a little more of them. The audio is just pure class. David Wise returns to composing duty as musical lead after a long absence. The original Donkey Kong Country Returns had a decent soundtrack, but it feels right at home with Wise back at the helm, bringing in old themes to the present as well as adding much flair and newness to the franchise. It's a classic for sure, even if certain themes may not stick with you forever like certain tracks did back on the Super Nintendo games. There are nice little touches that you probably won't even notice. For example, if you jump on Rambi the Rhino, the music gets an extra layer to it, kind of like when riding Yoshi in Super Mario World. It's not something you would probably notice, but it's the kind of touch and class you see from a game made with love. It is a superb soundtrack and I highly recommend you go seek it out to listen to. Graphically, it's not exactly sucking every last drop of the Switch's power, even when it was out on the Wii U, despite being kept to 720 resolution. The cartoony nature of Donkey Kong Country means that it doesn't need to be too realistic or anything. The art style is what completely makes the game though. Boosted up to 1080p resolution in dock mode for the Switch, it looks magnificent. The colours and detail look more vibrant than ever before. And if you compare the Wii U and Switch versions side by side, you can see that some nice tweaks here and there have been made to the graphics. You probably wouldn't otherwise notice, but at least they've spruced it up to take a little more advantage of that increased resolution. What I love is just how completely dynamic and alive every single stage in this game feels. They always start basic but develop as you play into something grand and spectacular. The camera pans around in 3D at times, which adds to the excellent direction the game has, really showing off how levels morph and change, becoming more chaotic or destructive over time. Even though I've played Tropical Freeze a lot before on the Wii U, coming back I was still wowed, even by the more simple levels. Each one is a whirlwind rollercoaster ride of set pieces that can't help but bring joy to your face, even if you've died 19 times at the exact same point. I don't know how Tropical Freeze was developed, but it feels like every level had its own director, and the producers told them that this one level is your baby, go to town on it, make it the best it can be. It really does feel like they were made with love and care, each auteured by one person. In handheld mode, Tropical Freeze looks just as great, much better than it did on the Wii U's gamepad for sure. It might be 720 resolution, but I wouldn't have noticed. It looks lovely and performs very smoothly as far as I can tell. Another huge point in performance are the load times. On the Wii U, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze suffered from some lengthy load times. The magic of the Switch cartridge has basically remedied that, and load times are now very brief. It may not sound like much, but those load times of the past really were horrendous. This is a big step up in efficiency. Visually and audibly, it's just a superb package. Maybe from the screenshots you can't see or feel the pure magic that Tropical Freeze exudes when it all combines together in motion. There's such an attention to detail with everything, how the music builds up and how the levels develop over time until they all culminate into one amazing, fantastic, theatrical performance. They really went all out on this one. It's like they created the fantastic original Donkey Kong Country Returns and felt they had some serious unfinished business to take care of with the DK franchise. The gameplay is almost perfection. Side-scrolling platforming at its finest. There's no doubt Tropical Freeze is a bit special in the platformer universe. The often free-flowing platforming precision is fantastic. It keeps it fairly simple, never getting too complicated, rarely any more than the original Country games did of past. That's to its benefit too. It gives you time to really master this small but very useful pool of abilities. You have Donkey Kong as your primary character but can be assisted by his family members who each offer something of an augment to his primary abilities of rolling, ground slapping and grabbing things. All three of Diddy, Dixie and Cranky will allow Donkey Kong to roll indefinitely if you spam the button. Dixie gives her hair-spinning helicopter flutter, Cranky uses his cane to bounce ducktail style, even over dangerous spikes, and Diddy, well, poor Diddy has become completely outshone by Dixie, as his rocket barrel boost is just a slightly worse version of her ability. I have very few complaints about Tropical Freeze, as you will see, but having Diddy be worthless is the biggest shame. I'm sure they could have figured out something else he could have done to replace why he was so awesome in Returns, but sadly they didn't. Diddy is redundant. Poor little fella. As you jump, roll and rocket barrel your way through the thrilling adventurous levels, DK can pick up a variety of items such as the Kong letters as well as puzzle pieces, but it's the normal platforming gameplay that really shines like a beacon in gaming. As mentioned, the rollercoaster ride of levels always gives you something new and inventive to experience. Usually each level has their own mini gimmick that's highly expanded upon. And of course, there are the odd minecart and rocket barrel levels which are just amazing. Now with the 3D camera, you're switching between lanes and seeing spectacular set pieces like never before. There's such a diversity to the levels too, somehow kept within similar themes. World 3 is a classic example of diversity. This African-inspired Scrublands will have you outrunning a tornado, making your way through a forest fire, and even jumping between poles of paper-made animals in a tribal-like fashion. It's difficult, occasionally on the frustrating side if you keep messing up at the same place over and over. But I absolutely love the challenge on offer here. It's never impossible and rarely ventures into cheapness. It's all on you and you mastering the pinpoint controls. Do you have the reaction times when ziplining between 3 vines while also hitting bells to unlock doors? Some of you will be pushed to your gaming limits here. It's fantastic and it feels so good accomplishing it, even if it makes you covered in sweat and your heart beating faster than should be medically advised. I love it. When compared with rival platformers on the Nintendo Switch, the first thing that will come to mind is the recent Kirby game, which I also had the chance of reviewing, and many of you were displeased at how much of a walkover that game was. Well, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is the cure for the too easy ailment. Tropical Freeze will test your reactions, precision, and timing throughout the journey. Boss battles are genuinely fantastic. They're not quite as grand or elaborate as some of the level set pieces, but they are a nice relief when compared to the majority of Nintendo boss fights of old. It's not a 3 hits and done, oh no. Tropical Freeze wants to be more epic than that. These fights are truly a dogged battle, switching between attack patterns, getting more and more furious, and of course more difficult, plus with tons of personality. You've got yourself some very accomplished boss battles. At first, you'll be clenching your buttocks and wiping the sweat from your hands as you cling on to your last heart, dodging the boss's attacks. After you've done it a few times though, and you know what's coming, there's almost a ballet routine to the fights as you gracefully dispatch them. Well, except for that glorious pain in the backside pufferfish boss, who still makes me want to throw my controller out of the window. There's absolutely tons of secrets in Tropical Freeze. Each level is packed with hidden areas, big and small, and it's an absolute joy to find them all. If you want to 100% this game, you will need to explore every nook and cranny of the levels. You would think that this would slow the game right down, but no. The levels are so delicately designed that it's a very streamlined experience. Finding all of the secrets will make sure that you unlock all the little extras of the game like music and concept art. Not only that, but in some stages there are secret exits to find that will take you to an optional bonus level. Finding them can be quite fiendish, but worth it for the fact that most of the bonus levels are actually some of the best in the game. The developers went all out on these ones and they present some of the toughest and most experimental experiences. Search these out for sure. If you've done all of that, found all of the Kong and puzzle pieces, all the extra levels, secret exits, and you still want more from this game, there's also a time attack mode for each level accessible once completed. This is for the most hardcore players of all, and even though you can tell I'm a huge fan of this game, it's a bit of a step too far for me. A great opportunity for those who have mastered the game though. In this Switch edition, the primary edition is that of Funky Kong. It's an odd choice for a character if you think about all of the Kongs that could come in, but when you realize what he does, his cool badass persona allows it to make perfect sense. Funky Kong is almost Mr. Invincible. He has 5 hearts of health and is immune to spikes on the floor, and the only thing that can truly stop him are the bottomless pits. Not only that, but he possesses all of the Kong's family's abilities for himself. He has Dixie's helicopter hover, which is indefinite this time. He has Cranky's spike repeller, this time automatic, and has a double jump in light of Diddy's rocket barrel. He's a master of all trades and as such is segregated to his own mode, Funky Mode. In this mode, he is the sole player, unassisted by the rest of the Kong family because really, they just hold him back anyways. Now I know what you're going to say. Why bother putting in an easy mode and market it as an exciting new feature? Well, I hear that somewhat. I think they've made a bigger deal out of it than what it's actually worth, but it does have a nice purpose. Not only does it make this fantastic game accessible to gamers of lower skill or on the younger side, but it also presents a great speedrunning opportunity for the ever increasing popularity of that gaming style. Funky Kong allows you to blitz through levels faster than ever before, and I'm sure some gamers will be eager to take up the challenge of completing the game as fast as possible in this way. Personally, I don't see much in it myself as I love the challenge of the normal game. On the eShop, Tropical Freeze prices at $60 and £50. A lot of people are bewildered at that price. A port of an old Wii U game with not too much added. How can they charge such a price? Well, maybe because it's one of the best platformers ever made. It's more expensive than what it was on the Wii U, which is probably a bitter pill to swallow, and I do take umbrage with that a little, and I think a slightly lower starting price would have caused much less fuss or controversy. The retail copy is cheaper though, and will probably become lower over time. If you want to experience this game, the retail price is where it's at for me, and I would say that it's worth such a price thanks to its high quality. You could make the argument of picking up the now cheap Wii U version, and that's fair enough, but this port is just so much more suited to the Switch. Playing it on the go is worth the price alone. Easy access to multiplayer with detachable Joy-Cons means it's more easily shared experience. The improved visuals and load times and a more accessible mode make it by far a better proposition than the Wii U original. When focusing on the gameplay, the mechanics of it, the physics, level design, the creativeness, accompanied by the magnificent audio and visual presentation, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is one of the finest games available, even 4 years after its initial release on the failed Wii U. Making such a fantastic game available to a wider audience is not only a financially good decision from Nintendo, but also an altruistic one. Obviously that's a bit of a joke, but in some ways it does feel nice that these fantastic Wii U games are getting a second chance of a life, and are being talked about and shared around once more. In my opinion, as long as you didn't have Tropical Freeze on the Wii U, this game is absolutely essential on your Switch. If you did have the fortune of playing it 4 years ago, like me, then you may find it difficult to consider double dipping, and that's fair. It's just such a phenomenal game though, and one of the best platformers ever created. I would give it 9.5 out of 10. The only thing stopping me from a 10 is that they priced it higher than the original Wii U game. I'm not saying it should be a budget title, no way, but it should have been the same as the original for sure. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching. Many thanks to Nintendo UK for providing this review copy, and if you enjoyed it or found it useful, then hit that like button and leave a comment below answering the question of the day. Which is your favourite DK game? For me, well, it's this one. Although I do have a fondness for the original Country game, even though I know it's not quite the best. If you're new here, then we would love it if you subscribe and follow us on our Switch reviewing journey. We've reached 10,000 of you amazing guys, and I hope more of you can join us on the road to 50,000. We're going to have something even more special than the current competition we're doing, in which we're giving away over 40 Nintendo Switch games. Be sure to check that video out for sure. Anyways, I've been Jordan from Switch Watch, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.